What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the latest episode of The.Layup.Line and part of this Oklahoma City series that I'm going to be doing on the channel. I've officially rebranded everything to be the timeline. I just think that kind of has fit the way OKC Thunder fans have talked about this team. I think it's a lot more appropriate for the Thunder than just calling it the process version 2. But today I actually have a special guest here with me today. He is a beat writer for the Daily Thunder. I have Brandon Rahbar, and you may know him from kind of viral moment that went from rookie Josh Giddey's Zoom conference, where he's asking the hard hitting questions with the did you poop moment with Josh Giddey.
We worked out this offseason, the whole time I was in Melbourne, and we've been in the gym together for a long time. So, I mean, there's no one really better to work with in Australia
Did you poop?
Than Andrew Gaze.
Yeah. So it's funny. I've been a beat reporter for a few years now for the Thunder, and I feel like I'm just going to be the poop guy now, which is fine. I'm cool with being the poop guy. It's funny. I actually the Memphis Grizzlies, their like sideline reporter, she's hosting a series of mock drafts, and she had me come on to select for the Thunder, and I was selected at number 16. I had selected at 6 and 16, and just so happens for the Thunder, and then we just ended up talking about the poop incident the whole time. So I think this is just my new gig now.
Yeah, righteous. Well, let's get right into this. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to start by just getting a feel for what it's been like to cover a team where the fans have been rooting for losses.
Yeah, it's been interesting because the Thunder fan base is really passionate, really loyal. They love this team, and the community and the team kind of have a special bond, and it was forged over, the first decade. Getting a new team. It's the only professional sports team in Oklahoma. So everybody kind of instantly fell in love. But fans were also kind of spoiled because they were a great team almost right away. They had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. They got James Harden and Serge Ibaka. So, there was 1 year of losing, and then all of a sudden they're a playoff team, and then all of a sudden they're going to the Western Conference Finals and Finals. So there's kind of been this, championship pedigree for a decade. So it's been this whole different switch, and the fan base is kind of divided. Some of them are, still rooting for the Thunder to win. They don't want to see the team lose, and they don't believe in tanking. And I get that. And then there's a whole other side of the fan base that's excited about, rebuilding. You call it the timeline, which I think is perfect. And getting those draft picks and seeing the young guys grow again. So I think it's kind of a fan base divided. But at the same time, everybody still loves this team and is rooting for the team overall. They just, have different ways of going about it right now, which I get.
Yeah, totally. So, let's get into the draft, because that is the looming event over everything right now. And, speaking of Thunder fans being divided, who the 6th selection has been a huge topic of discussion. I feel like when the Thunder first landed at the 6th pick, I saw everyone kind of initially gravitate towards Scotty Barnes, but in this past week and a half, I've seen it really shift towards being more so about James Bouknight. So in your opinion, I'm curious, based on your interactions with Thunder fans, who would you say that they most want at number 6?
Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley or Jalen Suggs.
Yeah.
I think most fans want to move up, to trade up and get one of those elite guys. That said, as far as actually staying at 6 and wanting to pick there has been, a lot of buzz about James Bouknight. And I think it's one of those things that the more fans dive into who James Bouknight is and how he would fit with Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander, I think that fans are really starting to get on board with that. That's the thing about Thunder fans. We kind of fall in love with whichever guy comes aboard. There's a lot of trust in Sam Presti. There's a lot of trust that he's going to bring in talented guys. He's built up that trust, and then he's going to bring in high character guys. So I think whoever the Thunder draft, whether it's Scotty Barnes or Jonathan Kuminga or James Bouknight, they each kind of have an argument for why they should be picked. And so I think that Thunder fans will ultimately be excited. But right now, if you were to poll fans, I think that James Bouknight would be the winner.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious what's led to this surge for James Bouknight. Because like I said, I think it was initially mostly I was hearing Scotty Barnes when the Thunder landed at 6. Would you say that's been more about just James Bouknight's draft stock rising, or has there been anything about Scotty Barnes that Thunder fans are just have been turned off from?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination of things. I think part of it is, Thunder fans really bought into the Scotty Barnes hype, but then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, it looks like Orlando has really kind of set their sights on Scotty Barnes. And so Thunder fans started to realize, maybe we're not going to get Scotty Barnes. And then James Bouknight was the guy that, all the draft analysts were saying that the Thunder had their eye on. And then Jonathan Kuminga is kind of the forgotten man here because he was a top 5 guy all year long. His draft stock seems to be slipping a little bit, but he still has a lot of upside if you pick him at number 6. But because, appearance wise, he's so raw, I think that fans don't really want to see that for the most part. I do think, though, that James Bouknight, when you look at his combine performances, he shot the lights off. Draft Express has been all over him. They said that he had one of the best shooting displays in the whole combine, maybe the best shooting display. And that was kind of his only question because he does everything else well. He's one of the best shot creators, finishers at the rim, his handles, all those things. He can be a really dynamic guy next to Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander. He is athletic. He's exciting. And Scotty Barnes, as fun as he would be, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can guard 1 through 5. He's a playmaker at 6'9". He's got an NBA-ready body, one of the best defenders in the draft. But he can't shoot, and there's a lot of questions about his offense. And Thunder fans, as much as they loved Andre Robertson and Josh Eustace and Hamidou Diallo and Terrence Ferguson, there's a little, PTSD about getting defensive guys who can't shoot. So I think they're excited about the idea of bringing in a young prospect who can shoot and who can score.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely would get that feel too. You've already mentioned it. Kuminga, Barnes, and Bouknight have been the 3 just kind of mainly discussed at 6. Before we move on, is there anyone else that you would kind of put in that tier that we might see taken with the 6th selection on draft night?
I mean, there's a world where Jalen Suggs could fall to 6. I doubt it. I'd say there's like a 2% chance. Maybe Toronto really is into Scotty Barnes and they select him at 5, or I'm sorry, 4. And then Orlando has had their sights set on, a big wing who can defend at 5. And so they still go Jonathan Kuminga, or maybe they really, really like the upside of James Bouknight and maybe Suggs falls. Maybe there's another world where Şengün, he's 18 years old, was the MVP of the Turkish league. He's a center that can, dominate offensively. Maybe him or Moses Moody goes, but if I were given it odds, I'd say it's like 95% chance it'll be one of Bouknight, Kuminga, or Barnes at number 6.
Okay. All right. Well, we are about 2 days away from the draft. And as the draft gets closer, trade rumors ramp up. So I just want to kind of get your feel for the numerous things that are spinning around this team. We've heard things from Woj that OKC is potentially trying to trade up by just sending out a X number of future picks. There was something from Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report saying that OKC made legitimate offers for the number 1 overall pick. And Matt Babcock of basketballnews.com had a report that legitimate offer could be Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander in the 4th pick. That's been kind of shot down by Zach Lowe on his latest podcast that came out today. What's just kind of your take of this whole trade Shai stuff? Is Shai available for the pick? Could he be moved on draft night?
No, it's the hot talking point right now with Thunder fans. As far as do I believe it? I'm with Zach Lowe. I don't buy it. I didn't buy it from the beginning. Just, Shai is a foundational cornerstone player, and he just turned 23 like a week ago. He's the type of player that you build your franchise around. He's not the kind of guy that you trade away for a draft pick so that you can hope that Cade Cunningham becomes as good as Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander. When you look at his numbers last year, they were all-star numbers. Honestly, he should have made the all-star team, and he had elite numbers, and he did it on a team with not much talent. It was no spacing, and he was just kind of otherworldly when you look at the context of what he did with the talent that was around him. So then you think about adding, top end talent to Shai and how special that team could possibly be in the future with all those assets. So I don't buy it. I'm not going to say that Babcock or any of those guys are making things up. I think that lots of things get said. There's, Zach Lowe said it well. Teams, agents, whoever are putting out information because they want, the best possible outcome. If there is trades, they want the best possible value. There's all kinds of kind of misrepresentation right now. And trading Shai was already a hot topic amongst, bloggers and all those things anyways. So I think they just kind of ran with it. I don't think there's a story there. I don't think the Thunder should trade Shai. Now, if you want to say Shai for Cade Cunningham straight up, Cade Cunningham's ceiling is really high. It would reset the timeline, give the Thunder, more years. They don't have to pay a max salary, more time to tank and rebuild. I get that. But Shai +6 for Cade is such a massive overpay. I can't see Sam Presti doing that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I lean more towards that Shai's untouchable with that team. So I'd say it's more about trying to just use the future picks to move up, and that's what's going to be Sam Presti's leverage almost every upcoming draft, using those future picks as leverage to get up higher and select somebody that they really want. There is another trade rumor that I want your take on, because we heard something from Jonathan Givony that Cam Reddish could be on the move as Atlanta looks to reset their timeline a bit. What would you think about his fit with the Thunder? And have you heard anything specifically about OKC being interested in Reddish?
Only the same source that you saw. And as far as, it's a legit source, obviously. So I think OKC would jump at that. I think Cam Reddish, he's a top 10 pick a couple years ago. If you look at just his raw stats, they don't jump out at you. But when you look at his defense, you look at how he played in the playoffs, you look at the fact that he's been hurt. So he's kind of been in and out of the lineup. But when you look at his potential and his upside, I think he could be a really, really nice core player for the Thunder, especially he's something that the Thunder don't really have. He's kind of a small forward / power forward that can defend, that could potentially shoot threes and score really high upside. If you can get that for 18, I think that's a smarter bet than whoever the Thunder will select at 18. And I'm really high on this draft and how deep it is. And I think the Thunder, if they stay at 18 and 16, will get a couple of really good players there. But if I were to say, will those players be as good as Cam Reddish potentially? I would bet no. I would take Cam Reddish in that scenario.
Okay. One thing that I've been extremely curious about is just, I think Oklahoma City has 6 picks in this draft in total, with the 3 in the first round, and I believe there's 3 second-round picks. It's kind of hard to see them drafting 6 players. What's the likelihood that we see those, I think it's 16 and 18 are the other first-round picks. I think it's more likely the second-round picks get moved. But what do you see on that front happening?
Yeah, I'd say like 99% chance that at least a trade will be done. I don't think there's any way that Sam Presti will use all 6 draft picks. He's got 10% of this entire draft. He has 6 picks, 3 in the first round, 3 in the second round. There's only so many roster spots to go around, and he has other, young guys he wants to develop. It just doesn't make much sense, especially when he has so much ammo to consolidate picks to move up and get the guys that he really wants. Let's say that Sengun is there at 11 and he really wants them, or Giddey's there at 11. Would he trade 16 and 18 to move up 5 spots and get him? Yes, absolutely. We saw last year with Poku, he used 28, 25 and Ricky Rubio to jump up to 17 because he really wanted Poku. When Presti really, really wants his guy, when he has all these first round draft picks to play with and second round picks, he'll do what it takes. So I think that we'll see some consolidation, and he'll move up to get some guys he really wants. I would guess 3 or 4 picks is what he'll end up making, not 6.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that as well. Another thing that I've been really curious about is just the positional need on this team. As a rebuilding team, you tend to just kind of take whoever is the best available. What do you see as a positional need on this team? I know Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander is pretty much the only solidified core piece. Lou Dort is probably the closest that you'd find next to that. So outside of those two, like the bigs, do you see the team needing bigs more, guards, or should they look to try and bring in some wings?
No, I think you're exactly right. You know, Shea at the one spot is the only firm and concrete guy going forward. Dort is probably pretty solid unless, you know, a trade happens that, you know, Presley can't pass up on. So he's your two. Now, is he going to be the starting two going forward? You know, probably, but maybe not. If you can get a guy like a Book Knight that's also playing the two, maybe Dort goes to the bench, or maybe one of them plays the three because of their length. But I would say, yeah, they definitely need some forwards, some wings, and some bigs. I mean, that's definitely as far as need goes. They don't really have anything. Now, Poku is definitely third in line. I think the team is still really high on Poku. He showed flashes. He's so young. If you wanted to slot him in, he's going to be the three. So really, they need a 4 and a 5. So yeah, they're definitely looking at bigs if they're going to draft for need. But I think at this point, it's still just best player available. Whether that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they'll take whoever's the most talented dude and then just make them fit.
Okay, yeah. So with the draft coming, I did want to talk about SGA though, so I think that's kind of what I'm going to use this last segment a bit more to just kind of have a discussion on him, because I think really good players on small markets tend to get underrated more so as a result of just the discrepancies of coverage between markets. But SGA, like you said, he was really good, and although he wasn't an all-star, like 62% true shooting, which he had on an extremely low number of assisted twos and threes, like that just projects as a future all-star and a very good player in the playoffs. Like that is the exact kind of player that you would need. Could you just talk about what he's meant to the Thunder as a team and organizationally?
Yeah, you nailed it. First of all, if he was in a bigger market, if he was playing for the Lakers last year, he probably would have started the All-Star game. That's how good his numbers were. He was that good. He's definitely playing an All-Star level. You know, as far as culturally and the organization, it was such a smooth transition because, you know, when the Russell Westbrook and Paul George trades happened, that could have been devastating. But when you see that you get Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander and you see what he potentially can become, it kind of set a lot of Thunder fans' minds at ease, knowing that, you know, no matter what, yeah, we have all these draft picks and everything, and there was that transition year with Chris Paul, so he still had a superstar, but knowing that the torch was going to be passed to Shea, especially seeing how he played last year and then the year before, you know, it just means a lot knowing that you have a future all-star already. You're starting a rebuild with an all-star player. That's pretty nuts to do that. So as far as organizationally, I mean, he was such a good leader last year. You know, he was shut down the second half of the season with an injury, but he was still right there leading the team from the sidelines, off the court, on the court. So it's just been a natural progression from Russell Westbrook to Chris Paul, now to Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander. Thunder have always kind of had a point guard that was an all-star, and they've been great leaders on and off the court. So he means a lot to the team and to the fans right now.
Love to hear it. Yeah, Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander, almost every Thunder fan has him as their profile picture, and that should let you know just kind of what he means to that team.
Yeah.
And something that I've really thought a lot about is the future first situation that Oklahoma City has. But with some of those future picks belonging to teams that are good now, some of those picks would be generally projected to be late first rounds, and there could be a lot of variance with what happens, making it kind of difficult to value those picks. So what has your sense been for the team building strategy that Presti's going to employ with these picks? Is this going to be a long-term tank, or is this a team that's going to try and consolidate these picks in a year or two to push all the chips in around Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander and hopefully whoever's selected in this draft?
Yeah, so when you look at the team makeup, when you already have a guy like Shai who's ready to compete and ready to contend, you can't wait too long. But you want to wait as long as you can to surround them with top 5 talent. So it's this weird in between limbo stage that the Thunder in. And that's why I think personally they'll have one more season. I don't think they'll intentionally tank or try to lose games. Now, will they, if Kemba's on the team, will they rest him on back-to-backs? Will they limit his minutes? Will they do those type of things? Yes, absolutely. I don't think they'll intentionally take. I think they'll just kind of try to win with what they have. And what they have, if it's Shai and Dort and a bunch of rookies, it's still going to be, a top 10 pick kind of team. Especially Atlanta has the Thunder's pick in 2022. If it's not, it's lottery protected. So you want a lottery pick. And then after that, I think you'll start to see the Thunder cash in their chips. I think they'll try to get one more high draft pick, this season in 2021 and then in 2022. And then, packaging picks to maybe get a disgruntled star, the Ben Simmons of a year from now or a Dame Lillard a year from now. They're not going to do it right now, but a year from now, I could see it. And they have the assets to do that. They'll have the cap space to go out and get any free agent they want to get, give them a max contract. So I think that we'll see one more year of losing. And then after that, you'll start to see a competitive Thunder team, I think. And as far as, all those picks go, you never know what's going to happen. Look at the Clippers this year. Everybody said those picks were going to be bad, and I get it because the Clippers, Rockets, at the time were elite teams. But Ari, this is the very first year next year that the Thunder will have one of the Clippers' first-round picks, and already it looks like Kawhi is going to miss the whole year. So what looked like maybe the 27th or 28th or 29th pick could end up being the 15th, 16th, 17th pick. Maybe even better, depending on what happens with Paul George's health.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And it wouldn't be the first time the Clippers ended up signing a future first that really bit them in the butt. I think they ended up giving up a pick that turned into Kyrie Irving to get off of Baron Davis's money. So that just shows you, the variance that you can see with these picks when a team expects to be good and ships out so much of their future potential like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about having, control of their draft for 5 straight years. They've got 3 of their first round picks, then the other 2 years sandwiched in between are unprotected swaps. So, if the Clippers even have 1 bad year, 2 bad years, and Paul George and Kawhi are great players, but they're on the wrong side of 30. They've both had a lot of injuries so far in their careers, and the Clippers aren't going to risk, are they going to go all in this season if Kawhi isn't playing? No. If Paul George gets hurt, are they going to shut him down? Because they want him to be fully healthy the next year? Yeah, probably. So you're right. There's a lot of variance, and who knows what can happen with all these future picks.
Okay. Yeah, I've really appreciated your time. I don't want to keep you too long, and I want to try and manage this in an editable format and keep it not too long. But I have one last question to finish on. So if someone was offering you an NBA veteran minimum deal, if you could correctly guess how long Kemba Walker remains a Thunder, what would your bet be?
That is a great question, man. I really want that bet minimum deal. I can shoot from outside, so I'm in on this. I think that they'll be able to trade him before the season starts. I've gone back and forth on this. So if you ask me this tomorrow, I may change my mind again. But the trade happened before this past season was actually technically over. And I think that with all these teams trying to get a veteran point guard like Kyle Lowry and Russell Westbrook and all these guys, there's going to be some team that gives up some bad contracts and maybe a late first-round pick to get Kemba. I think it's going to happen. So I think that Kemba will actually be moved before the season even starts.
Okay. All right. Well, I am going to hold you to that, and we'll loop back around to this at the time of the season starts to let you know if you made that NBA veteran minimum deal.
I can't wait.
But this was so fun. I'm really glad you were able to and available to come here and talk to me and be the first guest on the Layup Line. I really appreciate that, Brandon.
Absolutely, man. Pleasure to do it. You're doing a great job, and keep up the great work, bud.
All right.